Hey guys, it's FE4-55. Welcome back to another Beyblade X unboxing and review. Today we're going to be checking out the next of the CX Expand releases from Takara, that being Ragna Rage. Now I'll go over the packaging quickly for Ragna. As you can see, very similar packaging to Bahamut Blitz and Night Fortress, just now in a booster. And on the back goes over everything we get in this release. So we have the Ragna Rage Blade, which consists of the Ragna Lock Chip, the Flow Upper Blade, the Rage Metal Blade, and the Erased Assist Blade. And then for the Ratchet, we have FE4-55, and then for the Bit, we have Yielding. So let's open this booster up. So here is Ragna Rage out of the packaging. Now it is really cool to see the Ragnarok bay come back. Of course, the naming of this bay definitely takes a lot of inspiration from Ragnarok / Rock the Roll from the Burst series. Really cool to see this bay basically come back. But now let's go over each of the parts that Ragna Rage comes with. First off, we have the Ragna Lock Chip. Now, nothing too crazy to talk about here. It's a standard CX lock chip. But love the motif here, love the Ragna avatar printed on here. I think it looks really good. But apart from that, it's your standard CX lock chip. Next up we have the Flow Upper Blade. So Flow is a two-sided upper blade that is pretty round and circular. Honestly, kind of reminds me of Wizard Ark's primary blade in a way. But it's a pretty round upper blade, so this will definitely benefit blades that have a very round profile, most particularly a very oval shape. But apart from that, nothing too crazy to talk about with this over blade. There's too many blade names now, but even still, I do like how it looks, and it honestly does do decently with the metal blade included here. Next up, we have the Rage Metal Blade, so very similar profile to Flow. It's a two-sided metal blade that has a very circular profile. Now, this blade has actually been doing really well recently in certain tournaments. Rage has been performing really well as a really solid defense and stamina type. It seems to be able to take attacks really well, while also do some pretty good damage. Now, granted, it's probably never going to really outspin Rod or Clock Mirage on a good day, but it's still a pretty solid stamina type, and I think it should see some good use if you're not a big fan of using those stamina types. But still, really nice metal blade here. I think this is definitely going to be a really nice stamina type to use. Next up, we have the Erase Assist Blade. So really interesting assist blade here, because it is fairly thick, similar to Wheel, but not having a complete round profile. It does have some little gaps in it and more blades surrounding it. Erase seems to be a pretty decent assist blade. I don't really think this is going to be replacing Wheel and Heavy, which are the two most heavily used assist blades at the moment. But even still, this is a pretty decent assist blade, and it does work really well with Ragna Rage. I haven't tested this with other primary blades yet from CX, but I got a feeling this should be pretty decent. Probably a little bit below Wheel and Heavy, but I think it still should be pretty decent regardless. Next up, we have the FE4-55 Ratchet. Now, I am a little bit disappointed seeing this part here included. I honestly would have liked to have seen a new Ratchet here, or even a better Ratchet, as FE4-55 has been getting quite a few reprints lately, and I think that is more than enough for at least a while. But I do like the color on this. I think it's pretty cool. FE4-55 is decent, but it is definitely outclassed by a lot of Ratchets at the moment. But yeah, I would have liked to have seen a new Ratchet here, considering that Bahamut Blitz and Night Fortress both got new Ratchets, so a little bit disappointing to see Ragna Rage got cut short in that regard. Finally, for the Bit, we have Yielding. Now, Yielding is a pretty interesting stamina type bit for a lot of reasons. First reason being, it's massive. This is a very big bit. When we first got merged, I thought, man, this is a big bit. Yielding just basically just said, hold my beer. So yeah, it's a very big bit, and it is also a stamina bit, and it's the first stamina bit to be a needle bit, really. The tip of this bit is made out of a softer material. It kind of feels like elastic or something, but it is a little bit soft to the touch. Now, yielding though isn't particularly great. The performance of the bit I think is fine, but the main problem with this bit is essentially how big it is. It's way too big, and as a result, it leads to a lot of combos that use this bit to be way taller, and honestly, that is a bit of a negative effect. It's a bit of the opposite of what went on with Merge, where its height wasn't its problem, but mainly how the tip performed. So, very, very weird bit. I gotta admit, it does look cool, but in terms of competitive use, this bit is not great. I do feel like this bit honestly could be better in other avenues, but definitely not at the moment. With this combination of parts, it makes Ragna Rage a stamina type. So let's now head over to the scales and weigh up all the parts that Ragna Rage comes with. Alright, let's now get some weights in for Ragna Rage. So, yielding, this weighs 4.27, so that's pretty heavy for a bit. 455, that weighs 4.73. The Erase Assist Blade, this weighs 6.15, that's actually pretty heavy for an assist blade. And then the CX lock chip, this weighs 1.72. Alright, so the Flow Overblade, this weighs 3.74, so around the same ballpark as the other overblades. And then the Rage Metal Blade, this one weighs 27.02, so this is the lightest of the metal blades that we've gotten so far. So, not too bad, but even still not too bad. So let's put the overblade on top. If I can line this up right, there we go. So altogether, this primary blade weighs 30.79, so not a bad weight for this blade. So let's put the whole blade together now. So erase, and then the lock chip. Just one complaint I do have about this new system is that it's a little bit more tricky to get all this lined up now. Oh, give me one second. Got it. So there's blade. So altogether, Ragna Rage weighs 38.66. So with this combination of parts, he is a little bit lighter than Night Fortress. But the assist blade's definitely contributing a bit of that weight. So let's put the whole bay together. 455 and yielding. There's the full combo. So altogether, Ragna Rage weighs 47.64 grams. So let's get him out onto the stadium and do some test spins and some test battles. Alright, now we're going to do some test spins and some test battles with Ragna Rage. So let's see how this goes. I'm really curious on how this new bit goes. So let's move it around a good amount. A little bit of a wobble. Whoa, that's a lot of wobble. Yeah, it was very unstable when it was wobbling like that. I would imagine if it gets hit when it's wobbling like that, that will kill a lot of its stamina. Wow. I mean, some people have already been making pretty good use of Ragna Rage already. It seems to be doing pretty well as a stamina type. So, I mean, all the new CX expand base have been seeing a good amount of use already. They've definitely seen a good amount of use in certain circles. Now, granted, that obviously will change over time. Once people work with them a bit more, they might find out if they're more viable or not, but for the time being, they're seeing a decent amount of use. But let's now see how Ragna Rage does against some opponents. Oh! Yeah, the 455 really let it down there. Yeah, I think yielding is probably not going to be a great bit because it is making the base a bit too tall. I mean, look at that. Like that is making Ragna range a little bit taller. Not by much, but it is enough to affect it. Yeah, yielding's just not great. I think this is what's really letting Ragna's stamina just drain pretty quickly. It's just not the best stamina bit they've made. So that's it for my look at Ragnarok. I'm really happy with this release overall. I think the blade itself works really well, and this is definitely going to be adding a really nice option to stamina types if you don't like using the meta combos right now. But really the big disappointment is really the ratchet and the bit heat. Now 455 I think is alright, but I would have liked to have seen a brand new ratchet here, not an existing ratchet. That's really one of my main disappointments. But yielding is probably the worst aspect of this release. It's not a really good bit, at least with Ragnarok and other stamina types. It honestly should have been a lot shorter. This is definitely a case where height really matters, and I do feel like yielding is just way too tall to be practical, at least at the moment. I'm sure there may be some combo out there that will make yielding really good, but for the time being, you're best off not using yielding. But the rest of the bay though, I can definitely highly recommend. It's a really nice stamina type. So my final thoughts on Ragnarok are really good. I think the blade itself performs really well, and definitely is a nice option if you don't like using some of the meta stamina types. While the release of 455 here is a bit disappointing and yielding is not a great bit, it doesn't really detract how I feel about the bay, and I do recommend picking it up if you want a pretty cool looking and actually pretty decent stamina type. But that's going to do it for this review. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned for more Beyblade X videos in the future. And until then, I'll see you all in the next video.